What's up, guys? This is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development for INFJs and how to create an epic life on your terms. Last time we talked about the 7 signs you're ready to start your INFJ warrior journey, and today we're talking about the first 7 steps. So if you've been somebody who wanted to start but you don't know where, how, and what to do to begin with, we're going to tackle this today. It's really easy, but you have to be consistent with it. So before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step and you want my help with it, with creating your INFJ epic life journey, then work with me privately. All the information you find below. Step number 1, accept reality. So this is something that might be very controversial, because if you've been a little bit more active in the personal development realm, you'll know that we always say, don't accept reality. You don't have to settle for what is going on. You have to have an image, a vision of what's going to happen. That's the thing you have to hold on to, and then things manifest. With manifesting, we of course always mean make real. This is not some esoteric thing where you just sit somewhere and you think of something and it becomes true. It is that we align to what we already believe is going to happen, and because of that, we automatically take steps. But here comes the twist. We as INFJs, to begin with, don't look at reality. We as INFJs, to begin with, live in our mind, we live in our vision, in our fantasy, and what we have to understand is that just because you accept reality as it is right now, that does not mean that you have to settle for it at all. Those are 2 different things. And a lot of people ask me, so what? I'm supposed to be happy and grateful with what's going on? Because that's how we always talk about it, right? We say we have to start from a position of gratitude. We have to be okay with everything that's going on. Yes, you have to become grateful about what has already happened and where you're at in life, but that does not mean that you have to be okay with it staying this way. But before we get to a point where we can start our gratitude journey, where we can start improving what is really going on in the real world, we have to accept it. And for INFJs like us, this can be very tough, because most of the time our reality is so painful that we don't want to look at it. I know this from personal experience. In my head, everything was going to turn out. In my head, I'll meet some people that will make my life interesting. I would meet maybe that one person who will guide me out of my boring reality. I would find that job that will give me meaning and excitement, and the list goes on and on. And this was the thing that I believed. And if you're not sure if you're somebody who accepts reality or not, then ask yourself, are you somebody who's sort of waiting for something to happen? If you're somebody who believes there's something out there, it just hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen, I just have to wait. If you have a feeling like this, you're already at a point where you're not accepting reality. So accepting reality is about looking at what's going on here that is observable, that nobody can deny, and to actually accept it in a way that you feel it. So what I had to do was I had to look at my life and say, well, I still don't believe that I'm really tapping into my potential. My life is mediocre at best. I think it's boring. There's no excitement. There is no light. There is nothing that really makes me want to wake up in the morning, get up, and get excited about the things to come. And even more, I had to accept that this isn't going to change. Meaning, it's not going to change unless I change the way I approach reality, the way I alter that reality, and the way I react to what's going on. But it's definitely not going to happen if I'm not the main driver of it. That realization was extremely painful. It is an ego loss, because you also have to admit to yourself that you are the one who got you there. Yes, we all experience negative things in our lives. I'm not saying that you didn't experience any kind of trauma, or that you didn't have a difficult relationship with your parents and that other people might have had it easier. But first off, always remember there are people who have been in much bigger trauma and have made it out. And even if they hadn't, no matter what has happened to you, it's still on you to change that. It is maybe easier for somebody else, but that doesn't change the fact that for your life, you have to be the one who does the steps. Nobody else. It doesn't matter if Angie or Jack had it that much easier. You are you, and you are not going to be Angie nor Jack. So accept the fact and start doing the steps that will make your life better. And that also means to do steps where you know this isn't my end goal. This isn't maybe the job I want. Maybe I will have to work a little bit harder for the beginning. Maybe I have to go out and overcome things that I don't really want to do, but this thing will will definitely make my life better than my current reality. It still isn't where my vision is at, but it definitely improves my life in comparison to where it used to be. That's the mindset shift we need in order to start our INFJ warrior journey. Remember, it's not about saying I'll never reach my vision, but we have to start with the incremental upgrades and taking our current reality as the benchmark, as the starting point. Step number 2, accept anxiety. Anxiety is not something to run away from. Anxiety tells us that we don't know what's going to happen. It's a fear. It's something that makes us feel uncomfortable. And as long as you're staying really safely where you're at, even if you're staying safely uncomfortable in your current life because you don't like your apartment, you don't like your friendships, you don't like your relationships, still changing that, changing yourself will cause you anxiety because we don't know what's going to happen. There's a risk involved. But that anxiety has to become something that we take on. It has to be something where we know it's part of the process. I always like to say we want to get you to a point where you're out of your comfort zone, but it still doesn't overwhelm you. So if I would tell you, okay, now go sit, record a video, say all about yourself, about your beliefs and your fears and what you want, and then put it online, probably that would overwhelm 99% of all people. There's too much going on. The step is too big. Maybe that's not even the right step. I'm just giving an example here, but there are steps you can take where you know, okay, my anxiety level rises through this, but I know I'm still the master of my emotions. I'm still above it. It feels uncomfortable, but I know I can handle it. It's not gonna keep me away. Our excitement is still a little bit bigger than our fear. That's all we want. We don't need it to be that much bigger. We don't need there to be such a shift that you always feel comfortable. Be okay with taking on anxiety, because the only way this anxiety will go away when it comes to the next level of your life is when you take it on. Because once you do something that is uncomfortable to you, where you don't know how you're going to handle it, when you take something on where you don't know how I'm going to stay stable in my emotions, when you do and you see I'm still alive, it worked, I'm not that scared because I saw what's going to happen. Before, I had fears, I might have had big hopes. Now that I've really taken the step, I know that reality is different than what I thought it would be. It will be a huge step forward. Remember, anxiety is not something to avoid. It's something to embrace. Step number 3, and that has a lot to do with anxiety in itself. Do things that you know you're going to be judged for. Don't go out of your way to say things where people are going to have an opinion about it. Not if it's not in alignment with who you want to be. But remember, there are parts of you, there are beliefs of yours that are so much you, and you know they're true for you, and you're hiding them because you know the moment I'm going to start expressing them, people will have opinions about it. And people will also have opinions that I don't like. Maybe they will think I'm weird. Maybe they'll think I'm not as cool or as relaxed or whatever that might come up in your mind. Taking on challenges that will get you judged is an amazing thing, because through that process, you not only lose the fear of being judged, you actually learn that the reason why it feels so uncomfortable for you is not because people judge you, but it's because you take that as a hint about how you feel about yourself. There's always the similar example that I bring in this scenario. So if you're sitting in an office room, for example, and there's one person who has a judgment about the fact that you have brown hair and you really don't care, your self-worth is not dependent on the fact if somebody thinks, oh, brown is a good hair color or not. You're just not going to care. You are still the master of how you feel about yourself, despite the fact that somebody judges you about your brown hair. But if somebody judges you about the things you feel, the things you say, the way you articulate yourself, and you yourself are not confident in that aspect, then of course, if that person has an opinion, positive or negative, you're going to listen to that. That will have an effect on how you feel about yourself. Confidence is not about saying, oh, people are going to like me. It's about, I like myself, and no matter what people say, I'm not focused on that. I'm not listening to that. I'm practicing to stay stable in what I believe about myself and to do things that'll make me proud of myself, to do things that I know I like the most. most. And the more often you do this process, the more you become aware how often we actually take our hints about how to feel about ourselves based on how other people react. I do that. It's not like I'm perfect at this. Far from it. It's that I know that every time I have a reaction to somebody else's judgment towards me, it's a great indicator that in this aspect, I'm still looking outside for validation, how to feel about myself in this aspect. And this is not just about negative judgment, it's also about praise. Both of those things, they have to become at some point just background noise. You're doing things because you know you're proud of what you're doing, you know that's the best next step for you, and you're willing to take the journey in order to grow. Step number 4, set SMART goals. SMART as in specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So many of us don't want to set goals because it sort of goes against this INFJ-ness, right? We as INFJs, we exist, we observe, we become. We're not the people who set out goals and go for them because is this really going to make us happy? Is this really going to make us feel more like ourselves? The truth is no. It's a byproduct of that. The moment you set goals and you go for them, on the one hand, you really improve your real life, so your struggles get less. You have more of the things that you wanted and you're the one who made them happen. And through all of that, you learn that you can make things happen in the real world that you want. Maybe you don't know exactly what you want right now, but you already know what you don't want. You already know what is the next best step. Maybe you don't know the perfect job for you, but you already know, okay, I want to have a job that's better than my current one. So let me look out there. What would be an improvement in that aspect? And then you go for it. And having SMART goals is that important because if you say something like, I want to have a new job, then you don't know by when, you don't know what you're going to do until the point you've actually have that new job. It's not really measurable. It's not time bound. You have no specifics here. And then there are also goals that are just extremely unrealistic. And if you keep on setting them to yourself and you continuously have in the back of your mind, I'm not going to make it anyways, you're always going to feel like you're not making progress. I always say, I want you to have success stories every single day. So if you want to set a SMART goal in the jobs category, for example, it would be I'm sending out 2 applications every week to a company or a job where I actually fit into it. I might be stretching myself, but I know it's realistic for me to get that job, right? We want an improvement of our current situation. If we got the current job, then we'll also probably be able to get a job that's slightly better. Those are SMART goals and they are necessary in all aspects because if we don't want to admit to ourselves what we want to achieve in the real world, we cannot gather new information that will help us to create the next vision that we get excited about and that we can then take on. Step number 5, work on your physical energy management. Physical energy management is one of the pillars of the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life. And in the end, it comes down to that you need physical energy in order to have the energy to pull through and do something that's out of the ordinary because it takes energy to get out of the hamster wheel. That's just a fact. So work on your sleep, work on your meditation, work on your envisioning, declutter, take on all those things that will help you to have more energy. Work out. You don't have to do those things because they're popular or people say that's important. Do them so you can change your life, so you have the energy to make it happen. For me, that aspect was really important because I was never motivated to improve my energy up until that point. Up until I realized I need this in order to be able to push through. Step number 6, focus on your vocation. Vocation is another part of the 5 pillars to an epic life. By the way, you can download the free poster on the 5 pillars below. The point of vocation is that you need a purpose. We are INFJs. We need that. You cannot be satisfied by saying, okay, I'm just going to have a job that's going to create money for me, and then I'm going to have friends and all of those aspects. If you don't have something where you feel like this is my gift, this is what I want to bring out, you'll always feel like something is missing. And in the beginning, when I started this channel, this wasn't a business thing. This wasn't something that would bring me money. Actually, it was something I invested in. Time, money, energy, and I did that because that was part of my vocation. That was part of me bringing out my gifts, me sharing something of myself and making a contribution for others. We need this. Remember, if we don't have this, chances are that we're using this in our personal life and we're applying it to situations where we actually get into really toxic environments and toxic relationships because we want want to bring that out so much. All of us have a gift. Tap into that and find a way to bring it out in a healthy way that doesn't neglect your well-being. And now we come to the last step, step 7, and that is to focus on becoming instead of achieving. Yes, we set smart goals. Yes, we work on our physical energy management. We tap into our vocation. All of those things are important, but we have to remember that this whole thing is supposed to make us feel more like we are alive. We want to feel like we're living that epic life. We want to become somebody who's in charge of their own life, and we feel it. It's not about how it looks on the outside. Setting goals, achieving goals, all of this are tools in order to become the person we want to be. Don't neglect that. Don't only focus on the fact on becoming, because we can't just say it and then we become it. If it were that easy, we would have done this so far. We wouldn't be watching videos like this. We would feel completely fulfilled and don't feel like there's room to grow. But if you take all of those steps on knowing that your biggest goal is to become the person you want to be, then your life turns around in a way you could have never imagined. I really hope that helped you. Remember, you can download the poster below. If you want my personal help in taking on that journey, then work with me privately. All the information you find below. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on the 7 signs that you're ready to take on your INFJ warrior journey. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.